Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're going to be talking about approximating a square root. Basically, that just means it's going to be about, and depending on how close we want to be, we'll look and see exactly where it's going to fall. So overall, this idea of approximating means we don't actually want to use a calculator. We don't want to use this guy. We're using our minds to think about, well, what's going to make sense for our answer? So we're looking at the idea of estimating the square root of 71. What we need to think of, now we don't actually have to make a table, it does help, but what we got to think of is, okay, what number is pretty close to being 71? What they like to do is look at the squares. So 7 squared is 49. That's less than 40. That's pretty far from 71. Maybe there's something closer. 8 squared is 64. Oh, that's a lot closer. 9 squared is 81. That's too far. So our answer is going to fall somewhere between these two. So the question is, where is it going to fall? Well, depending on how close we need that answer to be, we'll change our answer. So if we're looking at a number line and we just got to know, okay, what numbers is it between, we can put 7, 8, 9, 10 on a number line. And we can sit there and say, well, that's the square root of 49. This is the square root of 64. This is the square root of 81. And this is the square root of 100. Taking that into account, we know that 71, is going to fall somewhere in between. Now, we can know that by the roots, but we can also know that because 8 times 9 is 72, pretty close. So because that's not 8 squared and because that's not 9 squared, it's 8 times 9, it's got to fall somewhere in between. We could even start going, okay, is 71 closer to 64 or is it closer to 81? Well, because 8 times 9 and some other tricks we could do, we just know it's somewhere in here, and we're just going to say it's about right here. And that would be our answer. If we were to put this on a number line, or we were going to try to get this, we're not going to worry about this number. We don't care right now about that number. What we do know is it's somewhere between 8 and 9. So we could say 8 and 9. Now that gets us to our closest integer. That gets us the idea of where it's going to fall between. Now, to answer A, to answer B, now we have to worry about this number. Okay, so we don't worry about it when we're placing it. We do worry about it when we're trying to get an exact answer. In other words, to actually approximate it, we'd be done somewhere between 8 and 9. Now we want to take it a step closer. Which one is it closer to, 8 or 9? So now we just think about it using these squares. Is 64 closer to 71, or is 81 closer to 71? Well, 64 is closer. So our closest, our nearest integer is going to be 8, because 71 is closer to 64. So if you notice, we're comparing the square root of the number before the integer to find out which one it's closest to. Now, if we're talking about tenths, now it gets even fun. Now I'm going to estimate. I know it's 8 point something, right? So what we're looking at is, at this time, you could grab a calculator. B is right here. So B, we're working on zooming in. My brain froze. I was thinking we were finding B here. But really what we're doing is we're zooming in. So if we look down here, if we took a calculator, we could do 8.3 squared is 68.89, 70.56, 72. So we go 8.3, 8.4, 8.5. Essentially, we're doing the same thing. We've just zoomed in. And this is where, if we're doing it by hand, if we're doing it on a calculator. See, the weird thing is we're estimating or approximating, which means we shouldn't be using a calculator. But the only way I know of to really zoom in past the integer is to use a calculator, unless you want to do it by hand. So I guess that's what they want us to do. Now they've done it for us, so we're just going to use that. What we're looking for is which of these 4 numbers is closest to 71. Well, 70.56 is pretty darn close. So again, what that tells us is 71 is somewhere between these two. and it's closer to this one. So this is the one I'm going to use as my estimate or approximating for the nearest tenth of finding the square root of 71. If you have any questions, ladies and gentlemen, go ahead and email those to me. Stay safe out there, guys, and we'll see you tomorrow.